Hello and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. This is episode 20. Yeah, that's right. Big 2-0. Last episode, there wasn't much action going on per se, but everyone remaining, that is 8 people, have decided to bunker down in Kinzo's bedroom apartment area for the night in hopes that they don't also get murdered. Yeah, that, and then they started getting all sappy, and the rumor is that Beatrice actually died 30 years ago, and that Kinzo's madness was caused by the love and loss he felt for her. Anyways, I feel like we're reaching the end soon enough, so I'm thinking I'm probably not this episode unless I go for a long time, but I'm feeling probably next episode is gonna be the wrap up, but we'll see. Let's not get our hopes up or hopes down if we don't want episode 1 to end. Anyways, here we are. If you ask me as a woman, then while I'd like to be understanding a father's feelings of true love, it did leave Mother in an awkward position. I agree. Cheating is cheating. No way to make it pretty. Yeah, that's right. Gotta feel sorry for grandmother. So, have there been any rumors about a child between Beatrice and grandfather? The keyword Beatrice has been hidden in every corner of this case, so it's natural to suspect some relative of hers. No, I have not heard of anything like that. If there was one, a memento of his most beloved person, he surely would have given them all of his affection. Since he ended up in immersing himself in black magic instead, maybe we should assume that there was no such child. Come to think of it, that reminds me of a rumor I heard. You know it, right? That story about how grandfather heavily supported an orphanage called the Fukuen House? The one that, Cannon and Shannon came from? Enough of that. That is nothing more than slander which would desecrate father. Tell us that, Nazi. I think even you'd agree that this is no time to hide things from each other. It's a worthless story. Father made massive donations to an orphanage and had the orphans employed as servants as the head family to give them some on-the-job experience. The story in question is simply some drivel spread by fools who claim that father was using those orphans for some filthy hobby. For a while, some guys even said he was collecting human sacrifices for his black magic. And he really is doing weird experiments and ceremonies in this room all the time. So I have believed it myself. And the servants who came from the Fukuen house are... There are several of them, but Shannon and Cannon were the two scheduled during the family conference shift. To resurrect Beatrice, he brought in servants from an orphanage as human sacrifices? After all, everyone grandfather selected as a servant was young, about the same age as Shannon or Cannon. I'm sure it was because grandfather had some bizarre hobby. Jessica! Mind your words! When Aunt Natty scolded her, the atmosphere instantly soured, instantly went sour, and everyone fell quiet. However, something was tugging at the back of my mind. Sacrifices. Sacrifices. Human sacrifices brought over from an orphanage. What is it? Freaky words like sacrifices don't pop up often. I'm gonna chime in and say I have no clue what he's trying to recall. I hope it wasn't something that we've talked about because I don't remember. Is this gonna be like another Zero Escape situation where he suddenly knows the entire Wikipedia article about some random event? The Sacrifice Murders of 1974. And yet, I've seen or heard that word recently. Some part of my memory is tugging at me. Hey, Beatrice. What do you know? I'd arrived in front of the portrait of Beatrice. It wasn't as massive as the one in the entrance hall, but that portrait, which must have been drawn by some famous painter, was still just as intimidating in this smaller size. Below it, just like in the entrance hall, was the epitaph that supposedly hinted at the location of the hidden gold. Ah. Oh. Oh! Oh, sorry, Shannon. I didn't mean to be on your dead body like that. Let me... Yeah. Sacrifices. Okay. Yeah, I should have known that. Okay. Okay. Ah, sacrifices, here. What the hell, Battler? You're creeping me out. 6 sacrifices. Both of my eyes were as wide as plates. Everything's been predicted right there from the very beginning. Everyone crowded around. And the same expression of shock rose to all of our faces. Wait, did we not realize this before? Hold on, did we not realize this before? I thought we had a discussion about how this matched. That's right. It's right there in the epitaph. On the first twilight, offered a 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. There's no doubt. 6 people died in the beginning. And even on the shutter where the magic circle was where that Hebrew was written, it mentioned the offering of sacrifices. I've been saying that from the beginning. That's right, Maria said it right at the start. Right after we found the 6 bodies, when Maria was in the parlor watching TV, she said it. The culprit isn't human. It's just the sacrifices chosen by the key. This has nothing to do with the location of the hidden gold. It's the instructions for a resurrection ceremony using black magic or something. After all, this epitaph requires a large number of deaths. It sure does. Even reading through it quickly, there'd be 6 plus 2 plus 5. 13 people? 13 people who must die. How many people are normally on this island? It changes depending on the shifts for the servants, but there's Father, my husband, Jessica, and me, and 2 or 3 servants. Today and yesterday there were 5 of them, but there aren't normally that many. Which means that normally there wouldn't be enough sacrifices to carry out this ceremony. No, wait. There's that rumor that grandfather was collecting servants from an orphanage to be used as sacrifices in some creepy ceremony. So what does this mean? He increased the number of servants to increase the number of sacrifices and waited for the annual family conference when even more people would gather? Isn't now the only time of the year the ceremony could be held? When Jessica screamed this, Maria broke out in that creepy laugh, looking truly pleased. Haven't you ever heard of people making bets to test their fate? Like throwing a sandal and saying that if it lands right side up, tomorrow will be sunny. Or saying that tomorrow will be a good day if a coin lands heads up. There are many little superstitions like that. Sometimes, when your luck is down and you get bored and you roll the dice and get 3 sixes, you want to believe it's a portent of some miracle. When flipping a sandal, you have at worst a 50% chance. Even if you get it right side up, it's not worth that much. But if you carelessly roll 3 dice and they all come up 6, you might think that's a small miracle. Magic works the same way. You must pray earnestly for an extremely unlikely result. Then the feeling from all those stored up prayers gain magical power and become incarnate. The word incarnate is... There's a college called the University of the Incarnate Word, and it sounds so ominous. Like, you hear that and you think you're gonna learn, you know, spell casting and black magic, and but no, it's just a Christian college, Christian university. But the name itself is the most ominous. The University of the Incarnate Word. Who thought of that name? Who thought that was a good idea? And there's another college, I think it's in New York, it's called Skidmore. Nothing against them, it's just a really funny name because it bears too much of a resemblance, in my opinion, to Skidmark. So, like, I know their mascot is thoroughbred, like, you know, horse, not white supremacy, but it's, are we sure that it's not, we're not the Skidmore Skidmarks or something? Oh, you know what? I'm ruining the mood. The magic that grandfather was trying to perform was probably like that. The key randomly selected sacrifices in a lottery. So, to reduce the chance that he himself was selected, he chose the day with the greatest number of people on the island to carry out the ceremony. You're ridiculous. Are you saying that this entire situation was caused by a mere ceremony for some bizarre magic? Yeah. Natsuhi yelled. She couldn't quell the fear that a scorpion charm might be the only reason she was still safe. If I hadn't received that charm from Jessica and hung it from my doorknob, would I have been killed mixed in along with those 6? And the strangest part is, even though I hung the charm from the inside of my door, they couldn't get through that door. The culprit noticed the charm from outside the door and gave up trying to open it. A human couldn't have perceived that. A charm meant to stop something that was not human, and had done exactly that. Impossible, impossible, impossible! But not to Hesan. The epitaph certainly does continue to fit even after that. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart those who are close. Could this be talking about Eva-sama and Hideyoshi-sama? Painful as it may be, we must reach that conclusion. And after the culprit killed them, they left the words from the third twilight in a letter there. That's right. After carrying out the second twilight, they left the third twilight in that place. The third twilight was just like Natsuhi just read. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. Here did this, so it just keeps going on, doesn't it? On the fourth twilight, gouged ahead and kill. Gouged ahead and kill. George and Iki's parents were killed with those demons' ice picks gouged into their heads. But if they were the second twilight, someone else must have been gouged in the head. Grandfather Kinzo, buddy. That's grandfather. He was burned on the incinerator, and our eyes were so drawn to that part that we didn't notice. But his forehead... No, his head had been gouged. Grandfather was the victim of the fourth twilight? Oh, that's right. Then Kanekun was... On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. We thought Kanenkun's case was an unexpected encounter with the culprit, but that's wrong. From the very beginning, they planned to lure someone out alone and drive something through their chest. If the culprit has followed the epitaph this far, does that mean 3 people still have to die? Well, actually, no offense, but it does say that no one shall be left alive, so technically all of you guys have to die. On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the 7th twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the 8th twilight, gouge the leg and kill. Yes, you could read it that way. Well, I wonder about that. After those 3 die, it reaches the 9th twilight. Take a look. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. This is just so... And then there was none. You know, one little soldier boy, or 10 little soldier boys, something. One choked his little self, and then there were 9 little soldier boys. Something about going to sleep. I don't know. I don't have my book with me. But I also have the, an older version that doesn't have the soldier boys. Not quite the oldest version, but I think I brought this up a few episodes ago. My version of the book. It's the, second title version. We're all gonna be killed by Beatrice. I don't get it. Wouldn't that mean everyone dies no matter how many people there are? Yes, Battler. What was Grandfather after? Doesn't this mean the ceremony would kill him too, no matter what? It's okay if no one's left alive, because they all get revived. On the 10th twilight, we finally arrive at the Golden Lands. On the 10th twilight, at Journey's End, you shall attain the power of the Golden Lands treasures, once and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. Grandfather wasn't afraid of dying. Look at the 2nd and 3rd of the 4th treasures. 1 shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. 1 shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. So Grandfather believed he would eventually be revived, even if he died partway through the ceremony. Ridiculous! That's insane! When you die, it's over, right? The dead don't come back to life. Isn't that a miracle humanity's been chasing after for thousands of years and still hasn't accomplished? So is that what it means? Something like you will be able to meet them in the afterlife where they'll be restored? If what you're saying now is right, would that mean that Grandfather, whose remaining life is slim, who's been driven mad by love, is committing suicide? No, a massive forced group suicide? Don't drink the Flavor Aid. Yeah, that's right, I said Flavor Aid. Everyone gets it wrong. It was Flavor Aid, not Kool-Aid. It's off-brand. Genji. Is such a thing possible? I don't know. The Master is a man who sometimes has the wisdom to see 1,000 years into the future. However, there are times when that appears to be nothing more than madness to commoners such as myself. Okay, should we take that for a yes? What do you say, Kumasawa-san? I don't know anything. That's right, I don't know. Do you think I would be on this island today if I did know? I mean, I guess not. I would have faked an illness or done anything to take the day off. That's right. What about your opinion, Dr. Nanja? You've been Grandfather's friend for many years. I feel the same as Genji-san. Kinzo-san was a man who far surpassed ordinary people. I've even felt a sort of inhuman power from him at times. Even I don't know what Kenzo-san was thinking when he wrote that epitaph. All we can say is that even if Father did write this script, someone else is carrying it out. That's right. At the very least, there's another culprit who attacked Grandfather in Canoncon. Furthermore, that person is still continuing the crimes just as the epitaph says. The letter in the beginning that we didn't think deeply about. What was it that was written there? Oh, Beatrice cut you guys off. We thought back to the recitation of the letter last night. Beatrice had proclaimed something inside of it. She had proclaimed that, according to her contract with Kinzo, she would collect everything of the Ushirmiya family as interest. But then she had also revealed a special clause. If someone discovered the location of the gold Grandfather had hidden, that right would be lost. When the letter was read, Grandfather was still alive. But at that time, it had already been sealed with wax by the head's ring, which meant Grandfather had handed the ring over to Beatrice while he was still alive. If we take a straightforward approach, maybe we should assume Beatrice was carrying out that strange contract, with Grandfather guaranteeing her that right. In other words, this was the same as saying Grandfather knew of and approved of the contents of that letter. In other words, it's basically a joint message from Beatrice and Grandfather, telling us that Beatrice will start collecting interest if we don't solve the riddle. In other words, how many other words are we having? Hold on. In other words, in other words, in other words. So, in other words, Grandfather and Beatrice were demanding that we try and solve the riddle of the epitaph. That's what they've been saying this whole time! And if we couldn't, they were saying that the massacre would be carried out according to the epitaph. What does this mean? What do they want? I don't have a clue what it means.
Look, another letter from Beatrice.
A third one? Uh-huh. What did you say? A third one. Maria was pointing at the top of the table where the canned food everyone had been eating just now still lay. Guys, how did we miss this? How did we miss a letter suddenly appearing? A Western envelope from Beatrice certainly was sitting on there, but so what? When Aunt Nazi let out a hysterical cry, looking between her own hand and the table, because the envelope she had just opened was still grasped in her hand. So why is there still an envelope on the table? What the hell? What's going on, Maria? Where did that envelope come from?
Just now I looked and it was lying there.
I don't know anything. Anything. This isn't funny. There's only 8 of us here. There's no way some 9th person snuck in. There wasn't enough time during the few seconds that we gathered around the portrait, right? Oh. Nazi, chill. Hey, hold on. Get back, all of you. Back against the wall. Aunt Nazi was pointing the rifle at Genji and the others, bellowing at them. Genji-san was overpowered, his face looking like he didn't have a clue what was going on. Of course, I felt the same, but a few moments late, I reached the same conclusion Aunt Nazi had. Until just a few seconds ago, there had been no letter like this on the table, and nobody entered this room. That means someone among us had placed it there during the few seconds where everyone was looking away, preoccupied with the portrait. Partner could open that envelope and read what's inside. Sure. I picked it up. It was still sealed with wax. Even without disturbing its contents, I realized that this was an as-yet unopened envelope. An unknown envelope. Without relying on a paper knife, I tore it open and pulled out the letter inside. The contents were as follows. Are you enjoying the riddle of Kinzo-sama's epitaph? As you are probably aware, you have very little time remaining. Please abandon any naive hopes of escaping after the storm passes. This game can only end with my victory or yours. When time runs out, I will win by default. There will be no ties. Make sure that you do not misunderstand your current situation. That's what it says. So I want to see it in here. Oh, Beatrice. Oh, Beatrice. You silly, goofy goober. That's what it says. It isn't clear who put this letter there. However, I've been able to narrow down the list of suspects. It's you all! Madam, that's just too horrible. Just before I moved towards the portrait, I set a can of food down here. At that time, there definitely wasn't anything as strange as this letter there. And at that time, Jessica, Georgekun, and Battlerkun were already in front of the portrait. And they didn't leave the spot in front of the portrait until the letter appeared. So the person who set that letter down is one of you four. Beatrice is here.
We aren't Beatrice. Beatrice exists.
Silence! I don't know whether I should suspect one of you or all of you, but without a doubt, at least one among you is the culprit. That's right. There can't be a 19th person. There's no way witches exist. Even when Kanekun was killed. Yeah, that could be explained if Kumasawa-san was the one who did it. The truth is that Kumasawa-san entered the boiler room with Kanekun and killed him. And then she lied, saying he'd already fallen when she got there. You're making a mistake, milady. Why would I do something like that? I don't have the slightest idea how my parents were killed in that closed room. But when they were killed, everyone except for the servants had an alibi. The only ones who didn't were the servants. But does that really mean it's okay to suspect them? Yes, now that you mention it, they have no alibi for any of the cases. Should we really be so quick to make that judgment? But this time, in this room, in this place, in this moment, in this minimally small bit of time and space, it's obvious. Only one of the four of them could have set the letter there in our blind spot. Genji? We can't tell who put it there, but it's obvious that one of the four did it. Natsuhi-san, please calm yourself. A lot has happened today. Yeah, no, Nanjo's just been here. I don't think it's Nanjo. So just leave the good doctor alone. I mean, he's done nothing. And I mean that both in like he's done nothing wrong, but also he's basically done nothing for this plot. I understand how much strain is on your mind right now. Dr. Nanjo, it truly pains me to call you suspicious. However, you are Father's personal doctor and his closest friend. You have been by his side for many years, and you might even know about Beatrice. Could you be hiding some kind of old obligation? Of course not. Calm yourself. It was pitiful to watch Dr. Nanjo frantically pleading his innocence. It was probably a normal reaction that anyone would give if they were suspected. Kumasawa was the same. Ever since Jessica voiced her suspicions of Kumasawa murdering Kanon, Kumasawa had been totally flustered. That was why Genji's still calm appearance looked so bold. Aunt Natsuhi pointed the barrel of the gun. Genji, you were grandfather's #1 subordinate. Was Beatrice an illusion you showed the father, with you as the performer? If by suspecting me, you recognize me as the master's greatest servant, then I count it a great honor, regardless of the circumstances. However, I am not the one who put the letter there. Do you expect us to just accept that? You must be the ringleader. Maybe Kumasawa and Dr. Nanjo are your accomplices. And Maria-chan, too. Not content to suspect just the adults, Natsuhi pointed the gun relentlessly at Maria, too. Okay, Natsuhi, I do need you to calm down just a little bit. Just a bit. Maybe don't point the gun at the 9-year-old child. But Maria acted as though nothing had happened. Or maybe she thought she would be fine even if she was shot. Maria-chan, by this point we can no longer remove someone from suspicion just because they're young. So for the last time, let me ask the question that everyone's had since last night. Who gave you the letter? I don't think... Yesterday, who was the Beatrice that handed you that letter? Maria, don't dodge the question. Make it clear. Who gave you that letter?
How many times do I have to tell you? It's Beatrice, the 1,000-year-old golden witch. If you want to know what she looks like, just turn around. See? She's right there. Beatrice is.
Don't mess with us, Maria. Enough, Jessica. Maria, too. Don't you understand the situation? What are you hoping to gain by saying stuff like that? Stop stirring each other up pointlessly.
I don't understand. Who do you all want the culprit to be? You only believe in Beatrice when you don't want to suspect one of your own. When you're trying to settle a grudge because someone who's close to you has been killed, only then do you want to believe in a human you could attack with violence and deny Beatrice. That's why you can't see her. Beatrice exists. You all can't see her.
Silence! I don't want to label you as the culprit, but there is no longer any doubt that you enjoy making this situation unpleasant and are providing assistance to the enemy.
Then what will you do? Shoot me? I don't mind. Very soon the door to the Golden Land will be open. Then all the dead will be resurrected. Right now, death is nothing to be afraid of. Mom, she really is suspicious. We can't keep her with us.
But Aunt Natsuhi, please, calm down. There's no reason to shoot Maria. Please remain composed. The letter was meant to provoke us, but it's nothing to be afraid of. Even the culprit is scared of what will happen tomorrow. They're scared of the police. Right now, this island is free from the reach of the law, but that's only because it's isolated by this typhoon. Once the typhoon passes, the law will return. So you mustn't shoot. How can you stay so calm, George Nee-san? One of these four is the culprit. No, maybe all four of them are working together. How can you stay so calm when one of these four might be the culprit who killed your parents? Even I have the desire to find the culprit and kill them. But that would be simple barbarism.
I will leave the judgment of crimes to the law. So no matter how suspicious they are, you mustn't pull that trigger. I feel the same as George, Nikki. Natsuhi, get a hold of yourself for a second. Anyway, it'd be bad to shoot. In times like this, I hear you should tilt your head back and say, stay cool, 3 times. Let me make this clear. Witches don't exist. Not on Rokenjima, not in the Ushirimiya mansion. I declare it as Ushirimiya Natsuhi, representative of the Ushirimiya family. There's no witch here. I won't accept Beatrice. No matter what you're planning, I won't let you lay one finger on my daughter or the rest of them. That's my duty as a mother and as representative to the family. Those words were the final words of farewell that settled everything. To protect her daughter, Aunt Natsuhi would regard any suspicious person as an enemy. The only reason George and Nikki and I were standing on this side was because, by coincidence, we had a clear alibi regarding the letter. If I hadn't approached the portrait, I would also be at the other end of that gun barrel, treated like a criminal. But even though part of me thought that, part of me was thinking that chasing all the suspicious people from this room finally guarantee our safety. Inji-san and Kumasawa-san and Dr. Nanjo, all of them were on grandfather's side. Maybe you could say that once Maria started blindly believing in Beatrice, she was also on grandfather's side. That's right. They're all suspicious. But is this really okay? We throw out all of the suspicious ones in such a lawless way. Will we still have the right to defy the lawlessness of the witch? Is time about to pass? It was 8 whenever we got into the room. No, we aren't. Aunt Natsuhi didn't tell them to leave with her own words, but with wordless pressure she induced them to say that themselves. Because if Dr. Nanjo didn't say those words, this cold silence would surely continue forever. Calm yourself, Natsuhi-san. Still, I understand your feelings well. I myself feel like there's something wrong with my head after all of these strange, repeated incidents. So, I understand well why you want to suspect us. If you really have nothing to do with this, then my actions now would be beyond rude. However, please understand, just this once. Very well. Let's leave the room. What do you say, Genji-san? Shall we return to the parlor and continue our chess game? If that is what you wish, by all means. I don't want to. After all, that means we'll have to leave this room knowing that the wolf is among us, right? I don't want to, madam. Please forgive me. It was obvious what Kuma-san was trying to say. She was innocent, and she was being ejected into dangerous territory along with the culprit. In the current situation, urging her to leave this room along with the suspect was almost exactly the same as letting her get killed. However, Kumasawa-san really was suspicious just for being alone, being the first one to discover that Kanen-kun had been murdered. At that time, everyone except Kumasawa-san had an alibi. Unless we could prove the existence of some contraption,
or the existence of some 19th person, Kumasawa-san was by far the most likely suspect. I didn't want to believe it. However, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest of us were in such a difficult situation that we couldn't help suspecting her as well. So we didn't say anything to stop Aunt Natsuhi from trying to oppressively chase them from the room. We had stopped her from shooting, but we were passively agreeing to chase the others out of the room. On top of that, Maria spoke to the fretful Kumasawa-san.
It's okay. Beatrice is kind to those who respect her. You believe that Beatrice exists. So, it'll definitely be okay. I'll watch TV in the parlor. Let's watch it together. It's so boring here without TV.
It looked like Kumasawa found Maria's roguish laugh very frightening. However, the 3 other people had agreed to leave the room. Kumasawa couldn't fight the flow and had to agree, crying as she went. I feel bad for her. I really don't think it was her. Well then, Natsuhi-san, that will be all for tonight. Let us meet again tomorrow. We all make it to tomorrow. Yes, please understand, at least for tonight. When the police come, all of us will surely apologize for our rudeness. You may play chess, but do it in a safe place if you can. Genji, I leave them in your hands. Certainly. Oh, it can't be helped, can it? They always say that the most frightening bears are those with their children. Genji, Kumasawa, my sincere apologies. Let us meet again tomorrow. Maria-chan, too. Please forgive your cold aunt.
I forgive you.
Madam, the keys to this room. I will hand both over to you. Genji-san pulled 2 golden keys from his pocket and handed them to Aunt Natsuhi. And I will also hand over my bundle of keys to the inside of the mansion. He took out a bundle of about 10 keys of various shapes and handed it over. To the servants, those keys were probably proof of their position. Being placed in charge of those keys meant that they were trusted, relied upon. When they were forced to return them, it meant that they had lost that trust. Thinking about it this way, to Genji-san, who had worked here for a span of many years, there could be no greater shame. However, Genji-san's usual indifferent expression remained on his face. Genji, I had planned that after Father passed away, I would reward you for your many years of hard work and allow you to retire. To treat you like this makes me feel ashamed from the bottom of my heart. I have already received the Master's favor. Everything I have done until today has been in repayment for that. Please do not worry over it. Well then, shall we, everyone? And this is the last time we ever saw any of them ever again. It's like the end of the Sandlot, where it says what happened to all the characters as they fade away from the diamond.
Good night. Good night to you too, Battler.
Maria, wait a sec. Knowledge of guilt made me call Maria back. I groped around in my pocket and took out that scorpion keychain. This repels magic, right? Wear it.
Huh? Didn't you say you dropped it?
Back then, I got ticked off and just bluffed that I'd lost it. There's no way I'd lose the precious charm you gave me. Maria silently took the charm. I was unable to say anything after that. Well then, everyone, good night to you. We watched them leave, our expressions completely worn out, and we weren't even able to respond. Makes me kind of sad. Until the door closed and we heard the auto lock, we were unable to breathe. Then, we were finally allowed to take a breath. After that, I noticed that Beatrice's letter, which I had been gripping the whole time and which was soaked with my sweat, actually had 2 sheets. The paper had been tightly stuck together, so I'd mistakenly thought that there was only 1. There were no characters on the second sheet. The thing drawn there was a magic circle written with a red ink like blood. Just like how every magic circle up until then had been different, this magic circle was one I had never laid eyes on before. Inside the circle, a large triangle and a small triangle were fit together in a simple design. But, just as before, there was writing in Hebrew, and it seemed clear that this had held some kind of meaning. I wanted to know what that could be. We had just chased Maria, the only person who could understand the meaning of magic circles, out of the room. Well, it's a good thing you're in a hub full of black magic books. I thought of this magic circle as Beatrice's second message. What does this magic circle mean? Damn it. They're chasing out all the suspicious people. All we had to do was stay barricaded here until morning, and everything would probably be over. Once the typhoon is past, when the seagulls cry, will everything be resolved? But the letter, which had just unexpectedly appeared in the study, forced us to reject that naivety. It had made it very clear that, if time ran out, it would mean the witch's victory. When time runs out, is the witch planning to take on the offensive? This time, is she planning to display some fearful magical power? Maybe something that could have been used to kill 6 adults at once? Wait, when is time supposed to run out anyway? I don't know anything. With this, we should finally be safe. Finally. Definitely. Even as she said that, Aunt Nazi couldn't stop gripping that rifle. There was no release in the tension of her expression. Of course, none of us felt like breathing a sigh of relief. At least not until we could hear the cry of the seagulls once more. Now time is about to pass. Oh, 10 o'clock. Oh, we're going straight to midnight. We're not going straight to midnight. We're at 11:32. It looks about where it's pointing. It's not quite straight down. After we chased them out, nobody wanted to say anything. All of the suspicious ones had been driven away. Even though we knew there might be some innocents among them, we still did it. We chased them out of this paradise, where people don't have to suspect each other. But our motive for chasing them out was suspicion of one person towards another. The worst kind of crime for a human. We had accepted the existence of a 19th person, of the witch, and we all might still be talking face to face, trusting in each other. In that instant, we had agreed to chase out all of the suspicious people. But had that been the right thing to do? During this endless silence, we could do nothing but be quietly tormented by that sin. Aunt Nazi faced the door without letting go of her rifle for even an instant, sitting far back in the sofa. She would probably spend the night staring at the door without a wink of sleep. George and Nikki gazed through a gap in the closed curtains by the window, looking down at the courtyard and the mansion that surrounded it. I didn't know whether he was checking to see if a suspicious shadow would become visible through the window, or whether he was wondering to himself about something. Jessica was sitting sideways on the sofa next to Aunt Nazi, with a dead expression on her face. And every once in a while, as though she'd just remembered something, she'd take out the inhaler she used during her asthma attack and stick it in her mouth. I just heard it from Aniki, but apparently Jessica liked Ken and Kun. It was apparently so vague that she hadn't realized it herself. You know, it's the kind of thing that other people tend to spot before the person in question realizes it. Which means she might have first learned of her feelings when the person she liked died. It must have been so terrible. So sad. Come to think of it, Canon-kun was the only one who'd handed her that inhaler. Maybe she was remembering that. I was fishing around Grandfather's study, thinking I'd researched the meaning of the magic circle on the letter's second sheet. Oh, good job, Butler. Even though we were shut up here in a defensive position, my rebellious nature made me want to find some key, some way to resist. After all, we've got plenty of time before tomorrow morning. Not really, but... who could fault me for how I used that time? No one else showed that much interest in this magic circle. It's actually a portal for Beatrice to get you guys! Its meaning was unknown, and once we understood it, we were sure to find some message that would cause us unnecessary anguish. So, what's stopping us from... because... Go to Natsuhi's room, get the scorpion charm, and put it on the doorknob of Kenzo's study. I felt that same way. However, I couldn't just ignore it, so I killed time by going through the motions of researching it. You sure are enthusiastic. Did you find anything that might serve as a hint? Not a thing. The first tough part is finding a book written in Japanese. Just how many languages could Grandfather read? He's incredible. Aren't you tired, Battler-kun? You should take a rest while someone else stays awake. Aunt Natsuhi said she'd stay up all night for us, but there's no way her body can handle that. We should take turns sleeping. Then you sleep first, Aniki. I'll keep researching till I get sleepy. You mean that magic circle just now? Yeah. We've got plenty of time to kill. I thought it'd be interesting to find out what kind of message Beatrice-sama put in it. Give it a rest. Mess around with stuff like that and you'll end up getting possessed by something weird. Don't worry. I've been certified by Maria. She said I've got no spiritual talents at all. Were we too cruel to Maria? Jessica, you mustn't think that now. But, Mom, if Maria wasn't involved and there's a culprit besides her, then she's obviously a soft target for the murderer. She's killed because of this. Then we've just left her to die. A gloomy silence settled once again. It looked like Jessica regretted letting her emotions take hold of her and snapping at Maria. Yeah. She's always been like that. Always acting tough and regretting it later. I understand how you feel, but Maria was in close contact with the culprit. She might have been siding with them, talking like that over and over to further confuse matters. I am relieved that we chased them out. It's pretty harsh, Aunt Natsuhi. Couldn't it just have been the nonsense of a 9-year-old girl? Probably wasn't very convincing to hear that coming from me. I myself thought Maria was creepy on several occasions, even doubting her true nature. And when Maria was chased out of this room, I couldn't deny I felt some relief. That is the case. Then tomorrow we will apologize for what we did. I will take full responsibility for chasing them out of this room. This isn't something the rest of you have to worry about. I could feel a tragic determination in Aunt Natsuhi's words. To protect her own daughter, she had resolutely chased out the suspicious one. And if, as a result, she had to watch the people who had unfortunately been suspected die, so be it. She was prepared to take full responsibility. Why does Maria have to keep saying stuff like that? She's bringing about her own ruin. I think the reason Maria-chan adores witches and magic so much might be Aunt Rosa. Aunt Rosa? What does she have to do with this? Didn't you realize it too, Battler-kun? Maria-chan's real father ran off somewhere a long time ago. Although Aunt Rosa tried to confuse the issue by saying he's on a foreign business trip. Talking about Rosa-san's family has become a kind of taboo in the Ushirmiya family. I think Aunt Rosa thought about remarrying, but I also believe Maria-chan may have become her shackles and made that quite difficult. After all, she sometimes got really emotional and hit Maria-chan. I agree with you there. Which means that she didn't really like her. She might have thought of Maria as someone who stood in the way of her remarrying. I think that emotional rejection from her mother must have left some deep scars on her young heart. So, she learned about this occult hobby from somewhere and immersed herself in it to bury the holes in her heart. Did you know? To Maria-chan, the image of a witch isn't negative at all. Remember yesterday at the beach when she showed us her notebook? Yeah, it was full of all those fun-looking scribbles. Yesterday, when we were down by the beach doubting the witch, Maria got all riled up and started explaining about witches. And not one of the pages had shown a picture of an ugly witch. They were all brightly colored, beautiful, cute witches who looked like they were having fun. There was absolutely nothing sinister about them, like a boy might have imagined. They were beings adorned with beautiful dresses who could grant anyone's dreams with their mysterious magic and who made everyone happy. Maria felt the sorrow of not being loved by her mother. Had she sought help from witches as beings who could give her happiness and save her? Someday a witch would come, and using her wonderful magic would bring Maria happiness. Even though she believed that, she grew older, she had to face reality as her fleeting dreams were sliced to ribbons one by one. If something claiming to be the Witch of Rokenjima appeared in front of a girl like that, whispering that she'd take Maria to the Golden Land where Maria could be happy, now that it's come to this, I want to confess what's in my heart. Throwing out Maria-chan, no, Genji-san and the rest too, was probably the wrong thing to do, I think. It wasn't pleasant. Since Jessica had been the one to face them and slam them with the words of rejection, her conscience must be tormenting her a lot right now. Then how do you explain that letter? No one could have said it there except the 4 people standing behind us. It was actually an elaborate contraption on the ceiling that, at a certain time, would trigger, and it would drop the letter from the ceiling right onto the table while no one was looking. I made sure of that with my own eyes. If those 4 are innocent, how was that letter placed in a closed room with 8 people? That's right. When you put it that way, those 4 really do seem suspicious. But it's all useless. It's all useless. Useless? What is? Right. Might not be worth anything anymore, but let me spin the chessboard around again. In other words, if one of those 4 really was the culprit, isn't that weird? That's right. Wasn't setting that letter openly on the table the same as confessing that one of them was the culprit? You're right. That's weird. If they were going to do it, you'd think they'd put it back in a crack at the door, for example, to make it look like someone had slipped it in from the outside. Of course, they should have known that they'd be suspected if they didn't make it look like the culprit was outside the room. Yeah, that's it exactly. The culprit was one of those 4. Setting that letter right in the middle of the table would be both risky and meaningless. But putting aside whatever trick was used to set it there, we assume that the culprit is someone other than those 4, in other words, someone who was outside the room. Then they had a lot to gain from that letter. Enough, Battler-kun. It's meaningless to discuss such matters now. Natsuhi-san quickly guessed what I was getting at. No, maybe she had thought of it long before I had, and had simply held her tongue. If the culprit's outside the room, then they'd be totally stuck in the moment we shut ourselves up in a closed room like this. That's right. It's the same as my theory about how grandfather disappeared from this room, isn't it? That theory was that grandfather left the room of his own accord. The culprit used some tactic to lure him out, and grandfather left of his own accord, then... Come to think of it, when we found the scorpion magic circle on the doorknob to the study, Maria said it herself. Beatrice couldn't get through this door. But she could induce someone to leave of their own accord. Which would mean we fell for the culprit's trap completely, and sent out some new potential sacrifices. Genji and the rest aren't fools. When they try to protect themselves, they should find the next safest place after this room. They will definitely be able to hide themselves there. Aunt Natsuhi hadn't answered the question. Aunt Natsuhi herself had realized that if the culprit wasn't in our group, back then, that letter would make sense as a trap. However, it wasn't worth the risk of calling back the people she had once thrown out. Aunt Natsuhi right now, her greatest and only duty was to protect the children. By her thinking, in order to do that, a few sacrifices were unavoidable. Hey, Aunt Natsuhi. Let me say something a little harsh, okay? At that time, what if, by coincidence, Jessica had also been standing behind you? Would you have chased Jessica from the room too? It's true that a lot of brutal things have happened, but as a mother, you thought you should protect your daughter no matter what. Because of that duty, you chased them out, even though you knew that you'd eventually be held responsible for it. It's not like I'm condemning that, but, I was just thinking about what a great mother Jessica has. That's right. You've been dealing with these incidents since morning, and you've been pulling all of us along this whole time without losing your composure. If you were all confused too, the rest of us would probably be in the culprit's grasp by now. So I think we all have to thank you. Thank you. So, what you two are trying to say is that you want her to act as Maria's mother too? I always thought of Maria as a real little sister and adored her, and yet a few things happened. We got a little confused. I've said a lot of mean things to her, hurting her. Mom, please.
Let's stay together with Maria. No, everyone. There was no culprit among us. The culprit in this case is the witch Beatrice, okay? So let's stop suspecting each other. Aunt Natty closed her eyes for a short while. Was she coping with her throbbing headache again, or was she thinking of something? You are my precious daughter, the one I finally received a whole 12 years after I married my husband. I would become the worst kind of demon to protect you. There was some pretty strong language at the end there. She realized very well that her words were an idealized view of what a mother should be. But even so, she was strongly resolved to protect her daughter, even if she had become a demon. But that was her guilty conscience tormenting her. Today's been so long. So many things happened in one day, and we've been driven into a corner so thoroughly. I wonder if we have the right to greet tomorrow the way we are now. There it is. I found it. It's this magic circle. Inside the book I'd been flipping through, I had found the same magic circle that had been drawn on the second sheet of the letter. George and Nikki peered at it as well. This magic circle's name was the Third Magic Circle of Mars. The Hebrew written on it was from Psalm 77, verse 13 of the Old Testament. What God is so great as our God? The meaning of this magic circle was discord. Agitate internal divisions and cause the enemy to bring about their own downfall. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was so discord among them. Wait a sec. Seriously? Could there be a more fitting way to describe our current situation and mental state? We couldn't help but be stunned into silence. So, this letter was a trap? How did they place it here? There wasn't anyone in this room except for the 8 of us, right? No, actually, Maria did point out how Beatrice was right there. Anyway, let's ignore how they got in here for now. The culprit was after just one thing. They wanted to spread the seeds of doubt inside this impregnable room and use us to throw the sacrificial sheep out. In that case, they're after the people who went out of the room. Mom, what should we do? Those 4 are in danger. So, considering there's 3 spots left, that means probably 3 of them are dead, I'd say. It wasn't surprising that Aunt Natty remained unpleasantly silent. Even if this was all a trap by the culprit, even the 4 who had been chased out of the room were in danger. It had nothing to do with the safety of the 4 people in here. And there was no way to prove the innocence of the 4 people we'd chased out. If we're willing to let them die, then we shouldn't leave this room no matter what. That way is safest. At that time, suddenly, the piercing sound of a phone rang through the room. It what? The phone lines were cut. The antique extension phone stood on the table in Grandfather's study. It had rung right after we started talking about the letter being a trap. It was natural we'd think of it as an SOS from the ones we chased out. But then Aunt Natty spoke. Why, a phone call? The phone should be broken down and unusable. That doesn't matter. If that's Maria calling for help, if the problem with the phones was the culprit's work in the first place, then this call is probably. With that one sentence, the ring of the phone, which had once sounded like a scream for help, now started to sound like a ghastly lure from some unknown person. Aunt Natty hesitated over whether to pick up the receiver. Let's pick it up, Aunt Natty. The phones might have been fixed for some reason. It could still be an urgent call from Maria Chen and the rest. That's right. And if it actually is a call from the culprit, bring it on. Why don't we listen to what they've got to say? It's just a phone call. No matter what they babble through the receiver, it's not like it's gonna hurt you. If you don't pick it up, then I will. I will take it. Hello? I stretched out my hand to take the receiver, but Aunt Natty grabbed it before I could reach.
We all held our breath trying to figure out who the person on the other end of the phone was. But for a while, Aunt Nazi kept saying, hello. Silent phone call? There's no way Maria and the others would do something so creepy. Which means, could this phone call possibly really be... Nazi stopped repeating hello and strained her ears, because she thought she heard something far away on the other end of this receiver. What was that? Uh-huh. Is someone... singing? What? What do you mean, singing? I don't know. Faintly from the other end of the phone, I can hear someone singing. I wonder what it could be. Give it here for a sec. Hello? I have forced the receiver from the stunned Aunt Nazi's hand and pressed it against my ear. At first, I didn't hear anything, but because I had been told about it beforehand, I noticed. It sounded far away from the receiver, rather than someone speaking in a quiet voice. It sounded like a girl singing a song. That voice did sound like Maria's, but that just made the situation even more inexplicable. At the very least, the one who had made the phone call hadn't been Maria. After all, Maria was singing some faraway song from the receiver. In that case, the one who made the phone call should have been Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, or Dr. Nanjo. And yet they weren't saying anything. Why? For what reason? The person who made this phone call. Who was it? Hey! Hello? Who is it? Answer me! Is that Maria singing? Answer me! What's happening? What is it? I don't know. All I can say is, this probably a trap, and Maria's in trouble. Aunt Nazi took the receiver again, but after yelling into it several more times, she realized that she wasn't getting anywhere and hung up. After that, she dialed quickly. Then she clicked her tongue. That's right, if the phones are working, we should be able to reach the police. But judging by Aunt Nazi's reaction, the outside telephone line still didn't connect. Let's go. Even if we know it might be a trap, we have to go. Yeah, definitely. Jessica, Aunt Nazi, stay here. When Aniki and I tried to dash out, Aunt Nazi stopped us. Hold it. I cannot let you go alone. I will go too. Jessica, wait here. What? So I'll be the only one left out? Nice try, but I'm going too. Yeah, it might be better that way. If the goal of that phone call was to split us up further, it wouldn't be a good idea to leave someone to watch this room. There's no time to argue. Let's all go. Aunt Nazi raised her rifle high and took the lead. You know, I think that's a good place to end this episode, actually. I mean, cliffhanger, yes, but I don't think I can handle what's about to happen next, so we're gonna leave that for next week, if that's alright with you guys. I'll be going on a trip, but I should be back by Sunday, so regular upload. Don't fret whatsoever. Anyways, quite the episode, and thanks for watching. Hope you all have a good day and enjoyed this episode of Umineko and Cry, and